Coming to you from New York, USA. Walking here, you can see the Empire State Building straight ahead. We've got Penn Station. We've got Madison Square Garden. And in this vlog, I'm going to share with you 10 reasons or 10 ways the US is exceptional compared to all places in the world. And for the past year, I've been traveling a lot. I've been to India, Africa, Middle East, Latin America, all over Asia. And there's things I notice, especially this trip, that I feel more proud than ever about with the US and how things feel. Because 2 years ago, I was walking here in New York and I made a vlog that was quite critical of how I felt in the US. Things were different back then. I feel like it's different now for the better. I'm going to share with you those 10 reasons because a lot of times on my vlogs, I'm telling you about Thailand and why I choose Thailand as a base over the US for given reasons. And some of those reasons are still true, like a little more slower pace of life, peaceful, kindness, politeness. Those things are still true. But these things I'm going to share with you are exclusive to the US, and no other place in the world has these 10 ways that make America exceptional. So I'm going to walk around the city. I'm going to come back here to Amtrak when we're done, share with you my closing thoughts. Let's get this video started. The first way America is exceptional. Urgency. It's one of my favorite things about America. You get shit done. And you go to these other countries, say for example, Thailand or Latin America, and it could be the biggest pain point, especially when trying to live in those countries, or the Philippines. Because you go to even Spain, Latin America, you try to get anything done, it's always mañana, mañana. And they think that's normal. There's a lot of criticism right now about America not being able to build stuff, that we're too trapped in bureaucracy. And that's partly true. There's a good book called Abundance, and it talks about that. How for the past years, we've been so trapped and controlled by attorneys, it's been freezing us up and getting like projects built, especially compared to, say, China, because we're run by attorneys, not engineers. Like they say China's ran by engineers, they get things built. But I think that's shifting. I think we are getting more done now. Things are moving a little more quickly, but that's different than urgency. At the end of the day, us Americans, we all respect one another's time, and it makes us more efficient. And that one thing, the lack of respect of each other's time and the lack of urgency in other countries, whether it's Thailand or Latin America or Spain or Portugal, that is one of the biggest friction points, I think, when trying to live overseas in those countries. The future of developments, not only in the US, but worldwide. This is a good way of doing it, just like they have done here. And it's great because it does show that regardless of the criticism the US receives right now about how we're not moving as fast as, say, China in terms of development, we know how to get it done. And we're probably going to be more on this rapid pace moving forward. And something to look at, a real indicator of where we're at is a country. Look in business at the indexes that rate the top 10 tech companies in the world and the top 10 most valuable companies in the world right now. The US dominates. And it's just a reflection of who we are as a culture. We're always innovating, we're being creative, we're falling down, we're making mistakes, we're jumping back up. And all those attribute to what you see on those indexes that America dominates. And just a side note, you go to a country like Japan that used to dominate in business, but not anymore because they move too slow, they're scared to make mistakes, and they just have become almost outdated in regard to innovation with the exception of a couple of their companies. And then just a side note, when I'm in Thailand, whenever I meet some Australians, I don't know, not all you guys, but some of you have this aura like you're better than Americans. And then I always remind you guys, check the top list, the top 100 tech companies in the world, and you won't find an Australian company on there. Maybe one, maybe down there by number 85, but it does reflect cultures, intelligence, business savviness, and a mindset that I love in the US when it comes to doing business. And right now, we are moving quick, the world's moving quick, and we're leading the way. And for all of you guys who want to debate it, look down at what you're using to type that comment. You're using an iPhone, using Mac, you're using Windows, you're using something American in regard to technology to get that done. This structure is called the vessel. It's inspired by India. You know, when you go to India, you'll see the step wells. That's where the inspiration for this design came from. Brings up the next point, why America is exceptional, and that is due to meritocracy. You're judged for the most part based on merit. If you're really good at what you do, you have opportunity to advance. And for my Thais watching this video, or really Colombians, Latin America, all you guys, you know what this means. It means, I can't tell you how many times I've known the smartest person in Thailand, young person. They're smarter than their boss, but because they have different parents, they're not allowed to advance. Same goes in so many countries. Whereas you come here to the US, it's why the #1 startup centers in the world are all in America, because we have opportunity and you are rewarded for your accomplishments, your potential, your brilliance. And it doesn't matter if some guy has rich parents or knows certain people. If you're the smartest guy in the room, you're usually going to get an advancement and get rewarded. And granted, yeah, it helps to know the right people. It helps to have some more resources financially. But for the most part, you're not going to have opportunity like you have in the US, anywhere else in the world, where you are defined for merit, not for who your mom and dad are, and you have opportunity to advance and pursue your dreams better than anywhere else in the world. And reflective of that is when you rank the top cities in the world for startups, it's no surprise, it's dominated by American cities. Whether it's in business, personal life, it's just what makes us extra strong, because a lot of countries don't have it. That is called trust. It's the biggest differentiator I think we have, because you look at an organization like BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, whatever, China, they tried to devise their own system, but no one would ever trust any of those countries in business. For example, the Chinese, they're always going to try to trick you. And India, if you're in India, there's always some issues with trying to do business there, and we know the sentiment around Russia. But at the end of the day, if you look at trust, there's nothing like the US. And even in currency, now all you crypto guys right now are saying, oh, the dollar, it's going to go away, and there's always a crisis. And a lot of you guys might even create messaging around it, around how cryptocurrency is going to overtake the dollar. But everyone's been saying that for 5 or 10 years. And guess what? The dollar is still the go-to currency around the world. And it's all rooted in trust. Let me give you an example. When you go to a place like Colombia, of all places, the word means nothing. They'll be happy to lie to you. They don't care. It just means absolutely nothing in business. And there's something that measures that. It's called contract enforcement. So that's how many days it takes if you have a legal issue to have an outcome. Colombia ranks like the worst in the world. US is pretty good, but keep in mind, let's not factor in these little tiny countries, because people are going to say in some of these indexes, well, America's so. No, because some of those little countries like Singapore or the Nordic countries, you guys are so tiny. You're like a medium-sized US city. When you take countries over 200 million people, you know, the US has 400 million, then let's talk where the US ranks on some of these critical issues. But when it comes to trust, man, it's where the US, it's probably the most special thing about our culture. And it's a big reason why we excel and we're exceptional. And the rest of the points I'm going to share in this vlog. Diversity. We are the most diverse country in the world. And you go around to other countries and you start to appreciate it, because you go to a Japan or a Taiwan or even Latin American countries, and they're relatively homogenous compared to what we have. When I walk around the streets of New York here, I'm hearing every language spoken other than English, and then occasionally English, but for the most part, it's just ethnically diverse. There's a lot of flavor in America, and when you have all this diversity, it creates good things, and it ties into even business. For example, With ethnic diversity, it increases innovation, economic growth, and a more adaptable and creative workforce. It is the fire that boosts innovation, economic growth, and competitiveness. It fosters creativity and understanding. It promotes better problem solving. It improves social cohesion. And you really appreciate the diversity of America when you go to countries that are super homogenous, like a Japan or a Korea, or even Latin America, although they might be a little bit regionally different. For the most part, you look around, it's homogenous. And in America, the other thing we have, you go state to state, every state has its own culture. Somebody from Louisiana is going to be very different than somebody from New York or even Washington. America's diversity, it's the fire of our creativity and innovation, keeps us different, and it sure, for me, makes it more enjoyable to be around non-homogenous. As a matter of fact, you talk to some people who escape Taiwan or Japan for a place like America that has a lot more ethnic diversity. They love it. They love being free. Those that leave and leave for that particular reason, they love being out of the trap of all homogenous, where they get all this pressure from society to be the same. We celebrate uniqueness, and it makes America even more exceptional. Coming to you from Times Square. What a great ad up there, right? You have a kid up there, an Asian kid, a Caucasian kid, you have a Latino, Hispanic kid, you have an African American kid. That's America. And walking through Times Square. And another way America is exceptional in terms of soft power. I keep reading in the news, America losing its influence, whatever you want to call it, but I'm here to tell you we're not. I was just in Tokyo recently. I went to a American football game. So the colleges in Japan actually have an American football league. Some of you guys are going to say, well, by no means is American football as big as football or soccer. Yeah, but Messi plays in the US, so we got something going for us in regard to even that. But there's no country like the US when it comes to the influence that we have in regard to, look at brands, whether it's your Nikes or your clothes you're wearing or your music or your food. And for those of you guys, again, trying to criticize, you're going to say something like, type something, right, about this comment. Guarantee whatever you're typing on, or if you're using Chat GPT or whatever, those are all American companies. So our soft power in regard to culture and expression and music and the arts, man, it's unmatched. And you go around the world and you see it everywhere. You see kids embracing the NBA, whether it's in China, you see people enjoying the different food that comes from America, and it's just nothing like it. You know, check out Times Square. In regard to our soft power, there's nothing else like it. Yeah, little footnote. You know, with Thailand, right? Say with Thailand, they have a thing called food diplomacy, and it wasn't that long ago when the government would fund entrepreneurs to take pad Thai around the world. The government would actually finance that. So it's interesting how soft power can be used or embraced as a means to promote or have others embrace the culture. America does a pretty good job of that. Thailand does too. Everyone loves pad Thai. You talk to anyone around here in Times Square and ask them what's their favorite Thai food, they'd probably tell you pad Thai. Soft power. Soft power, American culture. It's not getting less these days. But when I'm traveling around the world, if anything, I feel like people are embracing aspects of American culture more than ever. Stability. That's another way that we're exceptional. And if you look at the rest of the world, the U.S. is the go-to for our systems, our legal systems, our money systems, even our language. You know, English is the default language in the world, and it's going to stay that way. It's not changing. Even if you look at some talented, say, companies around the world, say in Latin America, a lot of times they shut down shop wherever their country is and come here to establish their business because we have a system that's more stable. And that stability permeates throughout a city or a country or a culture, meaning even in Thailand, you think about the built environment. Whenever they're building a new highway, like they call it Rama 2 or something, there's always like bricks falling off and hitting people in the head and killing them. You don't have that here because we do have systems, we have building codes, we have things that aren't perfect. Sometimes there's mistakes, but we try to protect against error. And the other thing is, when we do wrong, there's an element of fairness and correction. And I can't tell you how many times when I'm traveling around the world and you're dealing with the bureaucracies, and sometimes you're saying it's just not fair, and they don't care. Whereas in the US, we have accountability, and you might be wronged, but it will be corrected eventually. New York Times building, everyone. Okay, for this topic, before you all get defensive about me standing in front of the New York Times building, I'm going to switch this topic over to Fox News in a second. But the topic is transparency and empowerment. In the US, we actually encourage people to speak out. And what I mean by speak out, you might be paying attention to the press right now and saying, we're losing our freedom of speech. But in fact, go over to the Middle East or to parts of Asia and try to speak out and be critical about one of the kingdoms. You'll end up in prison or maybe worse. So in fact, we still are pretty good guys in the US. We do have freedom of speech. We do have transparency, and it is quite special. And okay, for you guys that watch Fox News, let's go. Coming to you from the Fox News building, keeping all things fair, because I know some of you guys are on either side of the political party in the US. I don't want to do any favoritism. So here I am, Fox News headquarters in New York City. But it's just truly something special about us that, number one, we do have relatively freedom of speech compared to other places around the world. And the fact that we can be vocal or pick, say you like the New York Times, you can pick the New York Times. Say you like Fox News, you can pick it in the debate, because a lot of places don't have that. A lot of places don't have freedom of speech. It creates somewhat of a transparency, better than most places in the world. Some might argue about our freedom of speech, but I'm here to tell you, if you go around the world, if you go to the Middle East, you go to places like Thailand, or places where they don't encourage speaking out or being critical, we're pretty good in regard to transparency. And yeah, of course, there's corruption, but a lot of times it surfaces. And another beautiful thing about Americans, we are our own worst critics. If you go down to somewhere like Colombia and be critical is a means to improve a place, they take huge offense to it. They don't want to hear anything but good things. So they're never going to improve. They're never going to get better because they don't have this ability like us Americans to openly debate, to be transparent, and to constantly work on being better. Moynihan Railway Station in New York. It's kind of new, and it's encouraging, because one thing that used to really frustrate me about coming back to the US after being, say, in Japan, where they have beautiful railway system, would be to come to old, outdated transportation system. The US still has a long ways to go, but man, this is encouraging. They have a beautiful food court over here. It's clean. It's relatively easy to use. There's a place you can check your bags for a day. Overall, just a really good experience taking the train compared to years past in the US. So some closing thoughts about how America is exceptional. The 10th way is education, university system. Still, much of the world identifies the US universities as the best in the world. They still want to come here compared to being in other places around the world. And if you look at the index of the top universities in the world, it's dominated by US institutions along with the research. And right now it's going through some changes. Usually it's how the US works. We identify the weaknesses, we identify things that are broken, and we fix them. And I think that's kind of what's happening right now with American universities. And other people are saying, look, what a waste of money. There's really no reason to even go to universities. It's all going to be replaced with AI. Well, we'll see, because there's some other things that were supposed to replace things like NFT, metaverse, and whatever else. We'll see where this whole AI thing goes and if it really starts replacing jobs and people. And it's ironic. I'm going to share with you a quick clip. I make my base in the south of Thailand in a very local town, not a lot of foreigners. And I was driving by the other day and I see this billboard, and it goes along with how America and the education system is still viewed as exceptional all the way around the world, even in little towns in Thailand. Well, here I am in a very small town in Thailand, less than 130,000 people. And you can see that billboard behind me. And if you take a closer look, what you see is like a mascot with an American flag. In a way, it's kind of holding the carrot for the parent to say, take your kid to our swim school, and there's a chance that the kid can end up in America getting an education at a university. There's no other place in the world that has the quality and the standards of the American education system. And if you look at Asia, yeah, Asia performs really well on tests, but the students are also taught to memorize, not to think critically. And that's something that we as Americans do really well, is critical thought. And we're a lot better at it than the rest of the world. All right, that's it. I'm gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna go hop on my Amtrak train, go to the next stop. I'm still loving having kind of a base in Thailand for all the reasons I've always cited in previous videos: peacefulness, politeness, kindness, kind of a quality of life. But I haven't felt this good about being in the US and more proud about being American and how we're exceptional than today in this trip back home and being in New York. It just feels good. What are your guys' thoughts? How are you feeling? I know this is a controversial topic. There's a great series out right now called The American Revolution by Ken Burns. It's awesome. But one thing he says in the series is how America's always been divisive. It's just been part of our culture all the way throughout. And he says, in fact, that's what makes us kind of who we are and makes us exceptional. Guys, I'll see you on the next vlog. I got to go hop on this train.